I never imagined my heart could freeze because of one moment. But that day, it did. My name is Evan, and I'm 30 years old. I live in a small town near Maplebridge, a quiet place with trees, coffee shops, and friendly neighbors. I work as a school teacher. My days used to feel safe, simple, and warm. Until that day. It was a normal Friday evening. I finished my last class, said goodbye to my students, and drove home. I remember the soft sound of rain on the car window. I was smiling, thinking about my girlfriend, Clara. We had been together for 2 years. I loved her deeply. When I reached my apartment, I opened the door and heard sounds. Strange sounds. At first, I thought the TV was on. But then, I saw them. My cousin, Ryan, and Clara. In my bed. For a few seconds, my brain didn't understand. My body stopped moving. I just stood there, frozen. Ryan looked at me with wide eyes, his face white like paper. Clara covered herself and whispered,
"Evan, please."
I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I only said, quietly, I want you both gone when I come back. Then I turned around and walked out the door. Outside, the rain hit my face. I walked and walked, not knowing where to go. My hands were shaking. My heart hurt like someone had broken something inside me. When I came back home hours later, they were gone. The bed was empty. The room smelled like perfume and rain. On the table, there was a small note. It said,
"I'm sorry, Evan. Please call me when you calm down."
I didn't call. I only sent one message. Your things will be at Ryan's place. You live with him now. The next week felt endless. Every bag I carried to Ryan's apartment felt like a stone on my chest. He opened the door when I arrived. His voice was soft.
Evan, please. I know I hurt you. But
I gave him the bags and turned away. I said nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept asking, again and again. Why did they do this? Was I not enough? Did they laugh at me behind my back? I didn't tell anyone. Not even my mother. When she called and asked, why did Clara move out? I lied. I said, we just grew apart. But the truth was much darker. And it was only the beginning of my story. Before I share the rest of my story, I want to ask you something. Where are you listening from? It gives me strength to know someone is hearing my words, someone who understands. Please tell me in the comments, I would really love to know. Days turned into weeks. I still went to work, still smiled at my students, still said, "Good morning," to my neighbors. But inside, I felt empty. At night, I walked through the quiet streets. Street lights glowed, and the air felt heavy. Sometimes, I sat on a park bench near the river, just listening to the water. My thoughts repeated again and again, like a broken record. Why them? Why me? I wanted to move on. I tried reading books, going to the gym, even meeting new people. But every time someone smiled at me, I remembered Clara's face, her voice, her lies. My mother kept calling.
Evan, you sound tired. Are you eating well?
She asked. Yes, Mom, I said. I always said I was fine. I didn't tell her the truth. Maybe I was too ashamed. Maybe I didn't want her to see me broken. 3 years passed. Slowly, the pain became quieter. I wasn't happy, but I wasn't falling apart anymore. I thought the past was behind me. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. Hello? I answered.
Evan! It's me, Ryan.
His voice was cheerful, like nothing had ever happened. My heart stopped for a second.
Listen,
He continued.
I have amazing news. Clara and we're getting married.
I couldn't breathe. I sat down, the phone shaking in my hand.
And
Ryan said,
I want you to be my best man.
I froze. Best man? My mind screamed. How could he ask that? After everything? My voice trembled. Are you serious?
Of course. You're my cousin. I know things were bad before, but time heals, right?
I felt heat in my chest, anger, pain, disbelief. You destroyed my life, I said. My voice was low, but shaking. And now you want me to stand beside you? Ryan was silent for a moment. Then he said softly,
If you don't want to, I'll understand. But I really hoped you'd say yes.
I hung up. My hands were cold. My face burned. I wanted to scream, to break something, but no sound came out. A few minutes later, a message appeared on my screen.
The offer still stands. If you don't want to be my best man, I won't have one.
I threw the phone onto the couch and sat there in silence. My heart was racing. My thoughts ran wild. Part of me wanted to block him forever, to never hear his name again. But another part of me, the dark, quiet part, whispered something else. What if you say yes? I shook my head. No. That's crazy, I said out loud. But the idea stayed. Maybe, I thought, this was my chance to tell the truth. To let the world know what really happened. The idea scared me. I am not a cruel person. I teach children. I help people learn. But I couldn't forget the betrayal. That night, I stared at the ceiling and whispered, maybe this wedding is the end, or maybe it's the beginning. For 2 nights, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying Ryan's words, be my best man. And each time, I wanted to delete his number and forget him forever. But another thought began to grow, small at first, then louder. What if I went to the wedding? Not to celebrate, but to finally speak the truth. I looked at my old laptop and opened a blank page. The white screen stared back at me. I didn't know what to write. My hands shook. But then, slowly, the words started to appear. I wrote about that day, the sound of the rain, the sight of them together, the way my heart broke. I wrote about the silence that followed, about pretending to be okay. Sometimes, tears fell on the keyboard. But every time I wrote, I felt a little lighter. Like the pain was leaving my body. A week later, I had my speech ready. I read it every night, whispering it to myself. I didn't know if I would really say it, but just knowing I could made me feel strong. One evening, my best friend, Jacob, came to visit. He looked at me and said,
Evan, you look tired. What's going on?
I told him everything about Clara, Ryan, and the wedding. Jacob sat in silence for a moment. Then he said softly,
Are you sure you want to do this? You'll hurt them, yes. But you might hurt yourself too. Are you ready for that?
I looked at him. Jacob, they hurt me for years. They lived happily while I lived in pain. I want them to hear the truth. He nodded slowly.
Just be careful. Once you say it, you can't take it back.
I knew he was right. But my mind was made up. The morning of the wedding came too fast. I stood in front of the mirror, wearing the suit Ryan had paid for. I felt sick. My hands were sweaty. Today, I whispered, they will finally hear me. The church was beautiful. White flowers. Soft music. happy faces. Everyone smiled, everyone except me. When Clara walked in, I couldn't move. She looked radiant, like a dream. For a moment, I almost forgot everything. But then she saw me. Her smile disappeared. I saw fear in her eyes. Ryan stood beside her, proud, holding her hand. He didn't even look at me. The ceremony began. The priest spoke. They said their vows. Then, finally, the priest said, "Now, we will hear from the best man." My heart pounded. I walked slowly to the microphone. Dozens of eyes watched me. My hands trembled. "Hello everyone," I began. I'm not very good at public speaking, so please forgive me if I make mistakes. People smiled politely. I looked down at my phone, where my speech waited. It's an honor to stand here today. Ryan asked me to be his best man. Honestly, I was surprised. Because the last time I spoke to Ryan and Clara was the day I found them together. In my bed. The room went silent. Yes, I continued. Clara was my girlfriend. We were together for 2 years. I loved her. I trusted her. But she cheated on me with Ryan, my cousin. Whispers filled the church. Clara's face turned pale. Ryan looked down, his hands shaking. I took a deep breath. I'm not here to destroy anyone. I just want the truth to live in this room, not the lie that has lived for years. I placed the phone down and walked away from the microphone. My chest felt heavy, but for the first time in years, I felt free.
The story continues in 10 seconds. Pause the video to review the new vocabulary and answer the quiz questions.
I walked out of the church slowly, my heart beating fast. My legs felt weak, but my chest felt light. Behind me, there was silence, no music, no laughter, only whispers. Outside, the sun was bright. The world looked normal, cars, birds, blue sky, but inside me, everything had changed. My phone started to buzz. It was my mother.
Evan! What have you done?
She shouted.
You ruined their wedding. Do you know how hurt they are?
I closed my eyes. Mom, they ruined me 3 years ago. I only told the truth. She kept talking, but I didn't listen. I ended the call and sat on the church steps. People walked past, looking at me. Some shook their heads. Some avoided my eyes. I just sat there, breathing slowly. For the first time in years, I felt like my voice had been heard. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Messages filled my phone, some angry, some kind. "How could you do that, Evan?" one said. Another, "Read, I was there. You were brave. You did the right thing." I didn't know what to feel. Part of me felt proud. Another part felt sad. The next day, my mother came to see me. She didn't even knock.
Evan,
She said sharply,
you embarrassed our family.
I looked at her. "Do you even care what they did to me? You told me to forget, to move on. But you never asked how I felt." Her eyes softened for a moment.
That was the past.
She said.
People change.
I shook my head. Maybe they do. But the past still lives inside me. She sighed and left. The door closed behind her, and the sound echoed in my chest. That night, I stood by the window, looking at the city lights. I realized something. Revenge didn't heal me. It didn't make the pain disappear. I thought speaking the truth would make me feel strong, but instead, it just made me feel empty again. Still, there was one difference. I was no longer silent. For 3 years, I carried the secret alone. It was like carrying a heavy stone. But that day, I dropped it. It didn't fix everything, but at least I could breathe again. Days passed. Then weeks. I went back to teaching. I smiled more at my students. Some of the pain stayed, but it didn't control me anymore. One evening, Jacob visited again.
So,
He said,
do you regret it?
I thought for a moment. No, I said quietly. I needed to speak. But I also learned something important.
What's that?
He asked. Revenge doesn't bring peace, I said. It doesn't make you whole. It just opens the wound again. But truth gives you freedom, even if it hurts. Jacob smiled.
Then maybe you're finally ready to live again.
I nodded. Maybe I am. Sometimes, we carry pain like a secret burden. We think if we hide it, it will go away. But the truth is, the longer we hide it, the heavier it becomes. When we finally speak, even if it's hard, we begin to heal. I don't know if Ryan and Clara will stay married. Maybe they will, maybe not. That's not my story anymore. My story now is learning to trust again, to hope again. The past is heavy, but the future is still mine.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share. You can watch the next story here or explore our playlist for more inspiring stories. And don't forget to subscribe. More emotional stories for learning English are coming soon.